there's a fine balance between social work and keeping an eye and a heart for the social side of things, but I think also not losing track of the artistic side. So in that sense, for me, it's always co-creative. As soon as you, as an artist, you step into the public sphere, the public space where anything can happen, you're co-creating. So you can go somewhere with your own ideas or your own concept or your own theme or whatever you want to work on, but still you're co-creating with that public space. And it's not just with people, it's with the dynamic, it's with the weather, it's with situation, in traffic. It's like it's a co-creation with all these elements that make up a public space that people use. To be able to make something together with that situation. And you could have a certain theme or a certain idea, but I think 90% of it will happen there and then. And I think as an artist who wants to go out into the public sphere needs to be able to do that, or at least try, because I think first of all you get into situations which are not very positive or which can kind of surprise you or in an unpleasant way, but also there's a lot of missed opportunities if an artist who goes out and wants to create something in a public space, who has a more closed off idea of what they want to do, I think there's a lot of missed opportunities. Work like that you can't teach, you can only experience, and it might have a negative connotation or a negative experience afterwards, but in a way we've all had them. I had them when I started out doing this. You can have the basics, we can tell you the subtleties, but still when you're out there being confronted with this public space and anything that it could bring, all the theory that you know about it and all the carefulness that kind of has been brought to you about working in this kind of context will fly out of the window, and it's just important to experience it. So if it's about is it good for people to do this in the beginning of the year? Is it productive? Is it constructive? I don't know, but I think the only thing I know is that this type of work is the only way to do it is to experience it. Which in a way is not a bad sentiment, like we need to redistribute what we have, but that's not what's happening. So, but this is Sara talking. This is not Sara from Transfocollect production talking. This is Sara van der Zande, community artist who's been doing this for 12 years in Brussels talking. I think this is a very tricky discussion. It's a good one, it's an important one, but this discussion of privilege and power, and especially in the theatrical, I would now really go specific towards the theater scene or sector in Brussels, is problematic as a whole. I can say that because I work with youngsters who would not feel like they're welcome or needed anywhere. So to fight for a place in this sector when you're not part of, I would say, this type of demographic is virtually impossible. There are a couple of projects here and there that kind of facilitate a discussion at least about this problem, but not enough. This thing about your own privilege, this is a work that takes years for the most people. People who grew up with this and haven't seen anything else, it will not take a few weeks Transversaal Atelier to be able to change their mind. This is a work that needs to be ongoing, and in a broader sense also in the education itself. Yeah. As long as in the education itself there's no reflection on how should we do this differently, you can't expect this Transversaal Atelier to give you all that, or to give the students all that. I agree, it's a good place to start that conversation, but we also shouldn't be unrealistic. I think it's good for the first year for this thing that it's a mandatory thing, but I think it's important to define why. If you want to have a lasting and structural impact on these young artists and on these students, I don't know if that is the goal from this thing. I think the goal is to kind of open their mind a little bit about other ways of working, and not just community participatory based, but maybe there's other ways of doing things. And I think to start with that at the beginning of their studying career is great. the most beneficial it is for people who have an intrinsic interest and curiosity about how it works to co-create and work in a participatory way. You can't force people to be interested in that. There is a big amount of people who are interested in that, to create something together, to kind of go into that research of how does it work to make something together. But there's also a lot of people who really don't give a shit. And I think that's it. It needs to start from kind of a foundation of an intrinsic interest in that. If it's not there, you can't force it. And it's okay, because we don't just need artists who are community artists. Artists is like a big spectrum. So, yeah. And that's with any organization. That it's a meeting of different types of people, and being able to put your own thing a little bit to the side for a moment, to crawl into someone else's skin and think, okay, but who are they? And again, what I said, it's about intrinsic interest. If that's not there, then you can force all the Transversaal ateliers that you want. You will not get a community artist. You will not get students who are if they're not interested, they're not interested. That's why this goal is. This is a nice introduction to just being a little bit flexible and getting out of your comfort zone. That's perfect for that. But more than that, you've got a couple there probably think like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to do this again. And you'll probably see them in straight away. They're going to talk to people. They're doing more than is asked of them. You will spot them right away. Oh, these people are actually taken by this. They love this. Straight away. And if not, fine. I think the scale of what they're trying to do with this Transversaal atelier, I think the goal should be, like they maybe are, minimal. Like tiny. Like this is fine if it's just an introduction, or if it's just like a little bit out of your comfort zone. Because what I know in Yes, when I worked at Yes, is like you have the comfort zone, you have the stretch, and you have the panic. And in typical, you learn in the stretch. You don't learn in the panic. You don't learn things. You're just surviving. And in the stretch, you're kind of out of your comfort zone, which is the first bit. You're already having to do things that you're not used to, but you're having to adapt, and you're willing to do that because you have the space of mind to do that. And I think with this project, that should be the aim, that the students are put in a stretch. But you have to be aware of, okay, there is a way of making art and creating stuff with people that has a social side. If that interests you, great. Yeah. Because we don't have enough artists who think about the social work side of things. And on the other side, we don't have enough social workers who are equipped to also take the artistic side. Because I've been in one foot in social. I've been a social worker and I'm an artist. But I'm one of the few people who has a leg in both sectors. But I also, maybe the art world should come kind of like a little bit more closer. And where better to do it than the future generation, of the new generation of artists. For example, I did a project in the summer under the wing of Park Poëtique. I was one of the coordinators of one of the nests that kind of was for 2 weeks in a certain place. Before that, we did a soup project. Yes, we gave soups to people, but what we did is collected recipes from everyone from the social estate and made that soup and kind of like asked opinions from other people about that soup. And then we made a publication of all the recipes and portraits of these people who gave us these recipes. So that can be also an artistic project, but you're still giving soup to people, and you're still but the soup was to have a conversation. It's not to give the soup, it's about having a point of reference. Like it was also just a soup project, but just a soup project can be for these people just soup, but for the artist can be something bigger.